Dear President, Prime Ministers, Ministers, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 12th Bled Strategic Forum. Welcome to the new reality. I remember a couple of months ago, I was asked to deliver a speech to a group of young people from, I think it was from Montenegro, who came to Slovenia on an Erasmus Plus program. At the beginning, I asked them to tell me their thoughts on why Slovenia is engaged. Why are we helping them to understand the European Union better, to understand why the EU norms, standards, and values matter? At first they were quiet, and then one of the participants raised his hand, and he said, "So that you will live better." I said that was quite a smart answer for a young person like him, but actually he got half of the answer right. The other half is that we are engaged so that also he is going to live better. This help me, help you story is, in my view, a perfect example on how globalized and highly digitalized world is challenging us to work together more closely, because everything is connected, everything is close, and everything is interlinked. Are we ready to take up this challenge? Are we ready to work together so that we all can live better and in peace? We live in a world where constant change is a new normality. We don't have to leave our houses to have access to a vast amount of information, some of it totally useless, which largely affects the way we perceive the world and how the world perceives us. We live in a world where one tweet can change the course of events, where one push on the wrong button can change the course of history. But, and this is important, we also live in the world which is full of new opportunities and solidarity. It's up to us to decide how are we going to adapt to this new reality, and how are we going to use new tools and instruments at our disposal to promote more sustainable and peaceful future. And this is what Bled Strategic Forum this year is all about, to find some of the answers on how are we going to successfully adapt to the challenges which are in this new reality. Before I give the floor to our host, Foreign Minister of Slovenia, let me just say one more thing. You will notice that the forum's presence is growing and expanding. In order to make our discussions as inclusive as possible, we want to hear your thoughts, your questions, because the forum is actually about you and your participation. So please start sending the questions and your thoughts on Twitter using hashtag BSF and on our mobile application. You can start now so that we will have enough answers or enough questions when the leaders panel is going to begin. And now, with this short introduction, let me now welcome our host, Slovenian Foreign Minister, Mr. Karl Erjavec, to deliver his welcoming address. Mr. Minister, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, dear friends, welcome to Slovenia, welcome to Bled. It's my pleasure and honor to open the Bled Strategic Forum 2017. This is my 6th forum, and I am very proud to see it grow and evolve. It has become a traditional late summer meeting point of decision makers from different fields of international relations. The growing number of participants and high-level guests who take time in their busy agendas to be with us clearly shows that forum is something we all need. We need the opportunity and incentive to talk about the new reality and, above all, to agree on our future steps. So what does the new reality mean? It means constant and dynamic change. This is the time when Europe is thinking very hard about its political, economic, and geographical future. On a global scale, we are facing new international actors, some of them promoting progress, some of them being radical and destructive. We are also facing new security challenges, including terrorism and weapons of mass destruction. Sadly, the human rights and basic freedoms are still put to the test. We still struggle to address climate change and its negative global impact. Again and again, we are presented with new technologies and new ways to spread information, opinions, and beliefs. But despite of all this, I don't want the forum's discussion to focus only on threats, concerns, and fear. We should dedicate the next day and a half to discussion on how to use these new realities to make a better future. In doing this, let us use the full potential of the basic rules that the whole international community agreed upon many decades ago. We should refrain from the use of force. We should cooperate to ensure prosperity and dignity for all. We should continue to respect and promote human rights, democracy, and rule of law. Speaking of the rule of law, we must not neglect our commitments to the international law and its full enforcement and implementation. I regret that this is not always happening in many parts of the world. It's even more regrettable that international law and decisions of the international courts and tribunals are not respected within the European Union. Ignoring the rule of law, including international law, is a contradiction with all basic principles and values of the European Union. A message that international law doesn't always need to be respected is a bad message for the European Union and for all candidate countries for membership in the Union. European Union member states must be an example of respecting the undertaken commitments. Ladies and gentlemen, before we listen to the next speaker and panelist, I would like to invite you to enjoy Bled and the forum. The dedicated team of organizers is taking care of that. As always, they worked hard and did an excellent job for which we should highly commend them. And of course, my sincere gratitude goes to our supporters and partners. Your continued partnership makes this forum possible and allows it to get bigger and better. I look forward to our future cooperation. I wish us all to have interesting debates, to enjoy each other's company, and to find the right answers. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Minister, for your words. Before I turn to our two keynote speakers, let me use this opportunity to thank the ones, as Minister said, which are actually the most important piece of the puzzle called Bled Strategic Forum, our partners. Thank you again for helping us for the last 12 years. I hope you are as proud as we are with what we have achieved so far. In this context, allow me to especially thank our four strategic partners, Generali, Rico, Telecom, and Renault. And last but not least, of course, let me thank my team, Matej, Neža, Sandra, and the whole team of the Center for European Perspective, volunteers, and all other people who have made this event possible. And now, thank you. Thank you very much. And now I would like to welcome to the floor our first keynote speaker, Prime Minister of the Republic of Slovenia, Dr. Miro Cerar. Please, Prime Minister.
Dear Mr. President, Madam Prime Minister, dear Excellencies and other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bled Strategic Forum 2017. Ongoing globalization, climate change, and other global challenges of our time are profoundly changing our societies and the way of life. Digitalization and new technologies are making the world smaller. They became the key driver of progress in society. In general, people and businesses have better opportunities than ever before. However, with these changes also came divisions and growing inequality. This has also resulted in general distrust of institutions and of mainstream politics. Moreover, we are faced with growing environmental problems and new challenges undermining peace and security around the world. All this is a new reality, especially for Europe, where in general we had decades of peace and prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, the challenges we are facing demand new approaches. There are not many examples in the past that we can use. When I say challenges, I particularly mean the growing inequalities, climate change, and security issues. I'm aware that there are many more, but these influence every continent, every country, every society, and in the end, every individual. Challenges to our security are becoming a global problem. Very few places in the world have not been affected by various security threats. For example, terrorism has become a global issue. Therefore, most of the security threats of the modern world cannot be addressed separately or partially by any country, be it large or small. This is why deeper awareness of these phenomena is needed, as well as understanding to address them comprehensively. Climate change is a fact, and it has always been a global. What we do at one part of the planet will have consequences everywhere and for everyone. I cannot envisage a sustainable solution that would not include us all, be it post-industrial countries striving for green economy, or countries whose development is still largely based on exploiting natural resources. We must find a way for all to modernize in a sustainable way that would enable us to prosper without endangering our planet. As I have mentioned, globalization also brings divisions and inequality between countries as well as within them. These inequalities increase divisions and frustrations. Millions want to migrate to safer and more prosperous parts of the world. Many succeed in their striving for better life, and many more do not. I strongly believe that we must do much more to help these people to live safely and with dignity in their own countries. Prosperity and well-being for all in secure and healthy environment has to be the forefront of national and international political engagement. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, our continent is far from being immune from the challenges of our time. However, Europe must remain at the forefront when it comes to addressing the contemporary global challenges that I mentioned. To be able to do so, we must unite around our common values and decide what kind of future we want to live in. This crisis of last decade have revealed certain shortcomings of the European integration. Some of those have already been successfully addressed, and some are still burdening us. One member even opted to leave the Union. As a strong believer in the European integration, I can say that I regret this decision. Yet, I do respect the democratic will and hope the process will be resolved to the benefit of the people. Still, all these tests are making the European Union stronger, and we are adamant to move on. There is a strong commitment of my colleagues around the table of the European Council to adapt to the new environment and build the future of the Union together. Doing that, we always need to believe in the power of dialogue and actively work on compromises. In doing so, our citizens need to be explained properly where we are going, why the changes are needed, and why compromises need to be made. However, there are areas where compromises cannot be made. Above all, democracy and respect for the rule of law, as it was mentioned before. As it seems that the question of the rule of law comes into question lately, we need to be aware that not respecting it gives the rise to distrust and thus undermines the endeavors for solving other topical issues. Moreover, it undermines the sole existence of democracy, as there cannot be democracy without respecting the legal rules and principles equally binding on us all. Thus, it undermines the European Union as such. Accordingly, Slovenia is determined to implement the arbitration award that defined the border on land and sea between Slovenia and Croatia. Our aim is to achieve this goal through dialogue with our neighbor. With the award legally binding for both sides, the two countries would finally close an important chapter that is troubling relations between our countries for decades and thus give a new impetus for enhancing cooperation in all fields. It would also give a very positive example for the Western Balkans how lasting solutions for such important issues can be achieved. Let me be very clear. As we talk about addressing the new reality, I do not see it without respecting the rule of law. So, if Croatia will not be sincerely willing to implement the award, my government will find a way to provide for its implementation, thus protecting the rule of law. Honorable guests, as far as the European Union is concerned, I find it most important that until spring, we need concrete decisions and consequent actions to make the Union safer and more secure, migration and asylum policy more effective and solidary, development policy stronger, our economic and monetary union completed and thus more resilient, our internal market modernized and deepened, and the Union more sensitive to social questions. In other words, we need more integrated European Union built on the fundamental values and principles, a champion of the rule of law, capable of properly addressing the challenges of our time. Ladies and gentlemen, if we want to address those challenges effectively, we have to join forces, work together, act boldly and prudently. As great thinkers say, the future depends on what we do in the present. And I sincerely believe that this, the right actions today, is the only way to protect our planet and provide international security and well-being for the generations to come. I wish you lots of good ideas and pleasant staying in Slovenia. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for your thoughts. And now I would like to invite our second and also the last keynote speaker before the leaders panel, the President of the Republic of Slovenia, Mr. Borut Pahor. President, please.
Thank you. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. We were very concerned about the future of European Union at last year's Bled Strategic Forum. It seemed at that time that our trust in the common European future have never been so low, and resorting to national politics had never been more popular. This concern was so great that it did not reach only the political elites across Europe, but it also directly affected the people across Europe. At the end of 2016, it was completely clear to many of us that a common European future was not self-evident. It became clear that it must also be thought for an election and referenda. As for now, this has been successful. This year's series of election results restored hope that pro-European political forces all over Europe have not given up. We are prepared to pledge our authority to join European values, the existence of the European Union, and further enhancing of its integration. I would like to express great satisfaction at such unraveling of events. However, I must emphasize immediately that we must not rely on these outcomes. We must practically and strategically consider and take measures regarding further steps to enhance the reputation and authority of and trust in the European Union. As you know, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am one of those who see the possibility for successful existence and development of the European Union in its improved integration. Once again, I do not speak about a melting pot in which national and other identities would be lost. On the contrary, we must particularly nurture our diversities. But it is clear that practical and institutional solutions must be put in place to take economic, technological, political, and finally, also security measures which are in accordance with a very high expectations of our people. This is a very complicated and long-term task, and I believe that we have to address it immediately. This encompasses a certain risk, but let me tell you, this is nonetheless a reasonable risk. Therefore, I express hope that the new joint French-German initiative, which will be, I hope, aimed at modernizing the European Union, will be launched after the German parliamentary election and the formation of the new government at the beginning of next year. I believe that this is in the interest of all member states of the European Union. I think that there is in our interest that the Union be strong on the outside and within, and is thus a successful strategic partner to the United States of America and the Russian Federation. When dealing with the most important issues of the world peace and security in a peaceful manner wherever possible. The transatlantic partnership has been and still is a foundation of European security. It is exceptionally important for its development as well. And so are better relations with Russia, which are vital for global and European security as well as welfare. Ladies and gentlemen, the European Union, which is internally integrated, successful, and respected by its own citizens, is possibly only when European and international laws are respected, as Prime Minister said, as Foreign Minister said before me. Europe is supposed to be a paragon of the rule of law, based on respect and implementation of obligations adopted at the international level. It is based on the observance of rulings of international and European courts and arbitral tribunals. The rule of law is equally as important in the European context as it is in our national frameworks. I mention this due to the difficulties in enforcing the decision of the tribunal regarding the border between our country and neighboring Croatia. It is in the interest of the European Union that the tribunal's decision be respected and that the agreed obligations are met. Slovenia and Croatia have resolved the dispute peacefully. It's been very difficult. It's been very difficult 8 years ago. And probably it's going to be very difficult also now. But with certain confidence and certain courage, political courage, could be implemented. I think that has been possible only in a dialogue with Croatia, and I think also now will be possible only in a dialogue with Croatia. But make no mistake, the agreement has been reached. 2 parliaments have ratified it. Now it is international treaty, and it represents an honest solution to a very, very sensitive dispute between 2 countries. We have excellent opportunity to, implement it, the final decision, and get on with other difficult issues ahead of us together. Slovenia and Croatia are now both in the European Union. This is very important. That enables to find a way to enforce the decision of the arbitrary tribunal, appropriate arrangements of the living conditions of people on either side of the border is now much more easier due to the membership of both countries in the European Union. With this, the significance of the common European future for resolving important issues within the European Union would be reaffirmed. Let me finish by saying, if faith in the future of the European Union prevails, not just between Slovenia and Croatia, but all over the Europe, cases such as the issue between Slovenia and Croatia, important one, not just for bilateral relations between 2 countries, but also, as Prime Minister said, for the whole Western Balkans, and nevertheless for the South Europe. Then I think will be resolved in a spirit of common goals. If there is no such faith of certainty in the common future, I am worried that solutions will be sought in nationalisms, which will instigate fear and hatred. And there is no need and no space for that. We have thus found ourselves at a crossroads. The conditions are favorable enough to head decisively in the direction of a reformed Europe with somewhat more political courage, with hope that this direction will be chosen for the benefit of all of us, for the benefit of children of all of us, which will also ensure a safe future for everybody. I welcome you to Bled Strategic Forum, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Before we start with the leaders panel, we would like to show you an introductory video, which was done by our partner, Pristop, who is a leading independent marketing and corporate consultancy in the region of Southeastern Europe. The music is going to be played by the Bled Strategic Orchestra, and with us is again Maestro Žiga, who is going to conduct the whole music performance. Please.